as of this week, Update 10 is out now for all platforms for crime boss Rockay City, and actually, do you know what? Something doesn't feel right here. Now that's more like it. So, let's talk Update 10 for crime boss Rockay City. I should actually thank 505 Games for this because a couple of weeks ago they sent me a care package with some caps, t-shirts, pin badges, and also logo wallets, which I'm unironically now using in my day-to-day life, and also in them carrying some Travis Baker books. What's not to love? So thank you to them for doing that. It wasn't sponsored or anything, they just saw the content and fancied just sending some spare stuff they had to me to say thanks, and it means a lot. I really do appreciate that, so thank you to Antonella and the team at 505 Games for that. And also, I forgot to say, because I'm still not used to saying it at the start of videos, but if you do enjoy this kind of content and want to see more, please do click that subscribe button. Whether you're a crime boss player or a payday player, make sure you click that subscribe button to stay up to date with all future news and updates for both games and anything in between that I fancy recording. We're trying to get to 40,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and I'd love you on board to help support that. But you're not here to hear me waffle about care packages, you're here to hear me waffle about Crime Boss Update 10, as I said. This is this month's update for Crime Boss Rockay City, and it adds some pretty cool things, but it's overall not the biggest update in the world, but it's got some pretty good stuff to it, so I thought I'd break it down, talk it through with you all, and give my overall thoughts on it. And also, towards the end of the video, there'll be an areas for improvement section. Not necessarily stuff that's come out of this update, but things that I've noticed just in playing this update, the things that I've realised I've not talked about until now, so just generally my chance to give some feedback for the game that I think will make the game a lot better. And also, if you're playing Crime Boss Rockay City in the last few months and you've got feedback, leave comments down below, and also let me know what you think of the update generally. So the first part of the update, and the biggest part, is the brand new bank map. Now, this has some good and some bad to it, so let's get the bad out of the way, because there's not much to it, and I just want to put the point across. The bank is unfortunately not selectable on its own in multiplayer. What in-game studios have done with this update is they've lumped this bank as a new possible map that you can get when you pick a bank heist to play in multiplayer. So when you click bank, you might get the standard bank that you're used to, that's the easier one to work through, or you might get the new one. And as Sod's Law would have it, when I was trying to get footage, most of the time I was getting the old bank. I just think that's incredibly frustrating, especially when there's a new map that they're hyping up that you can't just select that map to play, because in Update 9, the Hidden Vault, which could take place in two different big banks, split up into two options in multiplayer, and you could pick which bank you want to play it in. I think any maps where there's notable variance between the locations, not just a couple of RNG changes, but full-on map differences, a different bank, for example, should be a separate thing to pick in multiplayer. So my only real critique of that map is I should be able to pick it on its own. So I'm putting that out the door and getting the negative out of the way, because the map itself is really, really good. You all know I'm a sucker for bank heists, especially when I've talked about that in Payday content. I adore bank heists. Robbing a bank is the most fun you can have in a heisting game, at least in my personal opinion. So whenever a new bank's added, I perk up and pay attention. And this one feels like a notable step up from the first bank heist. The first bank is very easy to beat. A couple of guards deal with a security room that's fairly predictable, and a bank vault you can get into really easily. Doesn't make it a bad map, doesn't make it a super duper easy map, but it's one of the easier things you can do in Crime Boss. But this one, while it still can be easy to go through, is a little bit more challenging, because it's a 2-floor bank. The computer with the code that you need to get into the vault, much like the original bank map, could be upstairs or downstairs. It will tell you at the start of the heist and where all the different computers are, but it can change between playthroughs. There's also 2 different security room locations, one that I think is much easier on the ground floor next to the vault door, or one of the vault locations, and the other one is upstairs next to some of the office areas, which I think is a lot harder to get to, but you can go around the back of the bank and get up onto the roof to get to it a little bit easier, so there's flexibility there for sure. But I think the most efficient way of getting this heist done, considering how many civilians and guards there are and how quickly things can spread when someone sees you, is bringing in 3 Team AI members or human players to come in with you and start crowd controlling as soon as the cameras are down. You can take down the main area of the bank, as you'll see in the gameplay I've got here, and then start picking off the guards upstairs as they either hear things or just come into range. And that's a quick and efficient way to deal with the bank, at least I've found. It took me quite a few goes to get there, but that feels like the right way to handle it. Whereas in Loud, it's just like any other Loud heist in Crime Boss. That's not a bad thing, but it just works the same as anything else. It's still fun to play. And honestly, especially as I'm getting back into Payday at the minute, I gotta say, one thing I love about Crime Boss's AI is they loot the vault for you. It's so satisfying. In the stealth run, I literally just stood back and watched them do it because I thought it was quite funny to just let them do all the work for me. But it's really fun that it feels engaging as a team even when you're on your own. I think that's a really good thing, and that gameplay continues to thrive in the new Bank Heist. I think the location is brilliant, the gameplay is really good, it's still fairly easy to get around if you know what you're doing, as I've just explained, but it does present that bigger initial challenge, and it's just generally a bigger map. Sometimes bigger really is better, and this Bank Heist definitely proves it. I like it much more than the base bank map, which is why, as I said earlier, I want to be able to pick it on its own. So please, devs, make that happen. I'd appreciate it a lot. Next up on the agenda, something to dust off out the way very quickly, there is a new level cap and 2 new boss skins. You've got this one here for Vamp, which I have a feeling a lot of people are probably going to like quite a lot, and there's also this one for Teresa. Both those skins are unlockable as roguelike completion rewards. They are actually now the hardest skins to unlock, I'm pretty sure. They take more roguelike completions than skins like Casey and Nasara, so you got to keep playing the roguelike campaign if you want to unlock them, so please bear that in mind. It is a solo campaign reward. Although I have to admit, based on what the roadmap said about this update's main attraction being new skins, I did expect more than 2, so I hope that more get added down the line personally. But alongside that, you've also got a new level cap of level 155. That's your new max level. Now, me being only in the 70s, because progression does become quite exponential the higher you get, I don't know what the rewards are. I've tried to have a little peek and looked through the rewards list, but at first glance, I can't seem to spot the new rewards in there. I have been told there should be new rewards, but either way, a new max level is really good. This game has no prestige system, so even if people like me are nowhere near max level anyway, knowing that there is no close finish to the game and I'll be able to keep playing and keep leveling up is a win, at least in my opinion. I like that. But the other big change in this update is how XP and cash is rewarded across all game modes. So to give you an idea, they've rebalanced all the cash and XP so that they are equal for how much you score. So the more money you get, the more XP you get, and it's tried to balance based on that, but also just increase the overall rewards. At least I feel like it has. Earning cash in multiplayer was one of the biggest drags of the multiplayer mode, and there aren't many really. It's very fun, but I did feel like the progression was quite slow cash-wise there. With the changes, it feels a lot better. I completed a gold cup in stealth, which we'll get to in a minute because that's got a specific fix, but I got $400,000 plus for that on extreme difficulty and 2,000 XP, which was really, really cool, and I wasn't getting that before. It's nice to see some changes that don't make it too easy to progress, but just give you a little bit more of a helping hand, and especially in the money department. When those level 2 boss perks got added last update, I was super excited, only to find out they were $1 million each, and it was impossible to earn them quickly if you didn't have enough cash, so I'm glad that's changing. I'm very, very glad. So have a look across both single player and multiplayer, and you should find that there's more money across the board. The patch notes say they've rebalanced XP and cash rewards for all missions. Playing with friends or other people just gives an XP bonus at base, and there's also a bigger XP difference now for completing a mission with 3 stars versus 1 star. Also seems like that might impact cash, but don't quote me on that. It seems like getting a higher score does get you more cash as well, so you really want to go for that 3-star completion, so getting a clean execution without killing civilians or losing team members, and then completing whatever the bonus objective is that they give you during the heist. So if you complete them, you get better rewards, which I really, really like. But I did mention Gold Cup specifically, and it is a bit of a sticking point that I want to just talk about very briefly. Gold Cup in Stealth has had 2 very big issues. First off, Dollar Dragon won't shut up about going through the maintenance room to get to the trucks, and about how it ain't easy, but it's quiet.
You go through the maintenance room, it'll get you to the trucks. It ain't easy, but it's quiet.
And the other one is that you couldn't actually secure all the loot in stealth. The first issue about the maintenance trucks and that voice line that keeps repeating seems like it might have been partially fixed. He keeps saying it until you load up the first truck, and then when you carry on loading the trucks, he seems to stop, at least from my experience, but once you've loaded up 3, he starts doing it again. Same with general AI teammates in your lobby. They keep commenting about cages being open. I've noticed that too, so maybe that's been touched up a little bit, but still needs improvement. I've heard that voice line far too many times for my liking. But the other issue, and the much bigger one, was the Gold Cup Stealth wouldn't let you secure 5 trucks worth of gold. You'd secure 3, and it would force you to leave the heist with some bags left over. And that meant you were never getting the full payout when you complete Gold Cup in Stealth, whether you were solo or with a team, and that really sucked. Well, in this update, they've improved it, but not the way I thought they would have done. You see, the patch notes now say that Gold Cup Stealth gives the full mission reward when it was previously reduced, but they haven't changed anything gameplay-wise. It seems as though when you fill up those 3 trucks now, you get the full payout as if you'd filled up 5 trucks. But in the gameplay, you still fill up 3 trucks and then leave, which means, as in the gameplay you can see here, which I recorded today, you've still got 2 trucks worth, about 10 bags of gold, just lying around that you can't put anywhere, and you should escape after securing 3 trucks worth. It could well be there's some kind of issue that prevents them from putting the 5 trucks in the heist. I don't know what that could be, but again, as I say with the payday issues, I'm not a game dev, so I don't want to speak too strongly on that behalf, but it does suck that instead of just letting us fill up the 5 trucks, they've come up with a little contingency plan so that we get the full reward without doing all the objectives. If that's the best they can do, I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that they've done it, but the idea of leaving a heist without securing all the bags, and you visually seeing that you've not secured them all when you leave, it feels weird. I don't love it, so it's a decent fix, but it could have been better. And then finally, let's go through a few other key changes from the patch notes that I just want to list off very quickly. First off, boss points have been increased for expensive assets, so the assets you get in story mode, the roguelite, will give you more boss level progression in the campaign for buying them. They've also had their prices tweaked and unlock levels reduced. I also noticed in my gameplay there were about 9 new assets, because I had all the assets previously, and I'm seeing more in there now. On top of that though, the sentry turret is now stronger with better damage and health. The robot heister buddy has 20% lower HP, and the camera jammer and sensor have had their rarities changed. The camera jammer is now uncommon and can be unlocked earlier, versus the sensor grenade, which is now a rare gadget as opposed to what it was previously uncommon, I believe. So they've basically had their rarities swapped around, and that makes sense. Disabling one camera at a time versus a grenade that will mark everyone in a specific radius, the sensor grenade was definitely more powerful, so that being rarer, I'm not really surprised about. And the last thing that's kind of cool is that in the Dragon Dogs heist now, when you play in loud, you can get back to the main area even after you've progressed into the lower sewers. If you played that heist, you'll know that when you get into the lower sewers, you can't usually come back up and out again. It's almost like a point of no return once you've got all the bags over and you've dropped down. Well, now you can go back. Beyond that, there's a bunch of fixes and a known issue. I'll put those on screen now so you can see the last little bits of the update, but that's update 10. And so as I said, just very quickly, I want to run through a couple of things that I've picked up from playing this update that I'd like to suggest for future improvements for Crime Boss Rockay City. The first thing that I've noticed is if you're playing multiplayer and you're playing with bots, every time a heist finishes and you pick a new job, you've got to select each individual AI companion you want to bring along again. I'd much prefer it if you're still playing multiplayer in the same session to keep those AI in the lobby every time you pick a new mission, unless you physically go in and change them, because you can still do that once you picked an AI. So I'd love it if they remember the AI in the game and let you persevere with them in each lobby, provided you've stayed in the same multiplayer session and not, for instance, close the game. Picking them every time is a little bit annoying, and occasionally I forget and start the heist without AI, which isn't good if you want to play loud. Talking about starting heists though, I think one thing the game really needs is a restart function, especially while I was trying to get this new bank heist. Every time I was picking the bank and loading it up, if I did occasionally fail a stealth run, I'd have to close the lobby and then reopen it and hope that I get the new bank, and I'd then wind up going thrown into the old bank heist because I couldn't just restart the new one. I had to back out and pick bank again. It gets very annoying. I just love a restart button present. It'd just be better for quality of life. And the other thing about starting heist specifically is that there is a start heist function you can give to the AI where they will start tying down civilians, picking up bags, securing them. But I've noticed for a while now that that works in some heists and not in others. And Gold Cup in particular would be a great heist to allow us to do that, to allow us to have the AI pick up bags and at least take them to the maintenance room or put them in the trucks, whatever it may be. But if you bring along AI in the stealth version of Gold Cup, they have absolutely no point to existing. And you, if you're playing on your own, have to move every single bag, loot every bag, move every bag, secure every bag. Well, every bag you can in those 3 trucks. I think it should be nice if in every heist there was an option to press that start heist function if you wanted to get the AI involved. If you didn't and you wanted to play it on your own, or there was a particular map where it would be more annoying to have the AI helping you, you just don't have to press the button. Give us the choice and then leave it up to the players. I think that'll be a much better option. And finally, because I've actually just noticed that about 3 or 4 of these I've already said earlier in the video, the last thing I'd address is the heister Buddy, who I mentioned earlier has had his health reduced. Buddy came out with the Cagnali's Order DLC, but the problem with him is he has this very futuristic heads-up display where when you play as him, it's a fully red screen with some futuristic tech on the front, and you then play the game as normal. It's a fun idea, but the red filter on his own is a bit obnoxious and can be a little bit annoying to play, and especially to stream. A lot of my viewers have noticed they don't enjoy seeing that gameplay because the red screen is a bit off-putting. And because we've gone into the next update and it's not been addressed, I have heard other people say this, but I want to throw my hat in the ring to really push for it. There needs to be an option to turn off that HUD effect when you're playing as Buddy. My actual vision of it would be 3 different options. First off, the way it is now. Red screen, all the futuristic extra bits, and marking people as you're going around, you can see their outlines. Second option, get rid of the red filter, keep everything else. You still see the outlines around people and little futuristic bits on the screen, but there's no red colouring. Or option 3, standard HUD like every other character. You don't have to have a futuristic HUD if you're playing as a robot. The game doesn't have to enforce that, so I think it'd be good to have that option too. Hopefully, in-game studios get working on that. Especially considering the next update for Crime Boss isn't coming out in August, it's coming out in September supposedly, so we'll see what Update 11 has to offer when that comes around. But that's all my thoughts on Update 10 for Crime Boss Rockay City, so thank you all very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up, I greatly appreciate it, and make sure you subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all future news on Crime Boss Rockay City, Payday 3, and anything else that I talk about. Thank you all very much for your support. I'll see you all later this week for a Payday 3 dev blog. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.